Number 9 and 10 are inequalities, okay, linear inequalities. So I'm going to treat these just like I did my equations before this. Okay, I'm going to simplify both sides. Now, the only rule with inequalities that's different than equations is if I divide or multiply both sides by a negative, I have to flip my symbol. So again, just like before, I'm going to simplify both sides. 5 times x is 5x. 5 times negative 4 is negative 20. Bring down my minus 1. And I'm going to keep simplifying because these two are like terms. This is not. So I get 5x minus 21 is less than or equal to something. Well, this side doesn't simplify, so I'm just going to bring it down. These are not like terms. So now that I have both sides simplified, my goal is to move my smallest x first. Now that you don't have to do that step first, but if I know that step, then I'm going to remember what to do next. So I'm going to add 7x to both sides, and I get 12x minus 21 is less than or equal to 3. Now I need to get my x by itself by moving my number that doesn't have an x, so plus 21, because that's the opposite. And I'm going to bring this over here. And I have 12x is less than or equal to 24. Divide both sides by 12, because this is multiplication. Division is the opposite. And I get x is less than or equal to 2. Now, that's not done. I have to write it in interval notation and graph it. Okay? So I know that I just have 2. You don't have to label all your other numbers. And it says x is less. Less is to the left. Okay, remember this is also negative infinity and positive infinity. Less is to the left, and it's equal to, so we use a square bracket. Okay, now to write this in interval notation, I read my graph. What's the farthest left it goes? Well, negative infinity. What's the farthest right it goes is 2. 2 had a square bracket, and remember, infinity always has parentheses because you cannot touch infinity. So there's your answer. Now you also have to have your graph for credit. Okay, number 10 says or. This is an or problem, which means it can satisfy one or the other. Okay, now remember when they're linear like this with no absolute values, it's going to tell you if it's and or. So this is or. So I have to solve both sides, both little inequalities. So I'm going to add 4, and I get 3x is less than 6. Divide by 3, and I get x is less than 2. Or, I'm going to solve here. Well, again, I have x's on both sides this time. So I'm going to move my smallest x, so plus x. I have 3 is less than 3x minus 6. So I'm going to do plus 6. I get 9 is less than 3x. Divide both sides by 3. And I get 3 is less than x. Now, I can't read it this way. Oops, sorry. I have to flip it. Now, when I flip it, I want you to realize it's pointing at the 3 and eating the x, so it still has to be pointing at the 3 and eating the x. So I have x is less than 2 or x is greater than 3. So I'm going to label my 2 and my 3. Y'all, I do not care how far apart these numbers are. I'm not going to count and be like, oh my gosh, what are you counting by? I don't care. So x is less than 2. Less goes to the left. Remember, this is negative infinity, positive infinity. Now, it is not equal to, so we use a parentheses. Or x is greater than 3. So greater is to your right. It's not equal to, so you use a parentheses. Now, or means it's one or the other. You do not have to overlap like you do with and problems. So what's the farthest left it goes? It goes from negative infinity, to 2. Okay, infinity always gets parentheses. My 2 also has a parentheses. And then it has a gap. Remember, that's your union sign. Okay, that's just where it breaks. It picks back up at parentheses 3 and goes to the right forever, which is infinity with always a parentheses sign. So there is your answer.